So we're starting this big job today. This is actually a pretty big job for us. We are going to be raising the height of all these garage doors here by 2 feet, which means the whole front of this roof, all these rafters need to get demoed. Need to remove these concrete headers. These are most likely reinforced. It looks like they were formed and poured when they were built. But these need to go up 2 feet with 1 additional panel on these garages because the trucks they're using to service in here, the new trucks, are too tall to fit in these openings. So this garage building is 120 feet long. There are 9 bays. And this job starts today. We estimate it's going to take about 3 months. So I have a schedule I printed out right here. It's going to be it's an estimated schedule, but here's the plan from the architect. For this from an engineer. We're going to be putting these metal posts on top of the existing posts. And we put 3 separate 45. I don't know why that just shut off on me, but. And then on that far end down there, they're eventually getting a lift installed in here, and the ceilings are going to be vaulted down there. So it's this section here. There's going to be a triple 20-inch LVL beam up top. It weighs about 900 pounds, I think. 900, maybe 1,000 pounds. So these green beams on the plan are metal W8 beams, 24 pounds per foot, 45 feet long, and we're doing 3 of them, give or take 45 feet. This is a big truss we need to build that's going on the inside end of that triple 20 LVL, which would be right there, and that's going to take that weight and distribute it over to the front and back of the building because they can't have a post in the middle of the garage. So it's a really cool job for us. Not your everyday bathroom renovation or office renovation. There's a lot of technical things going on here. We're going to start today by taking these garage doors apart and start taking these panels off and bagging up all the insulation. It's like a blow-in fiberglass insulation, I think. And it's all loose up there, so it's just going to come pouring down once we start removing these panels. And later this week the electrician's going to come. And then we build a temporary wall right down the middle of this on the back side of the ridge. So the back rafters are going to stay, but they're going to be reinforced. We have to double up those back rafters. Here's the plan. All the rafters on the back half of the building are going to get sistered up with another 2x8. The new rafters in the front are going to be 2x12s. So our temporary wall is going to be right behind the current ridge beam, and then once we build that, we're going to secure those temporary studs to the ceiling joists, if you will, and cut the front half of the ceiling joists and then we can demo the roof and all the front rafters. So I'm going to try to keep a video series going with this job, and I'll try to explain things as I go. But anyway, this is our first day It's almost 8 o'clock and we're about to get started. So I will be back later. So here's our progress at the end of the first day. We got quite a bit done today, and considering we were short 2 guys, I'm pretty happy with our progress. We got all the doors and hardware off. We had to remove all the radiant heaters from the ceiling. There was one for each garage bay, and there was a giant exhaust vent that was actually really heavy going down the middle of the room. Took that down, got everything loaded in the dumpster, and tomorrow the plan is to take the panels off the ceiling and get as much of the insulation bagged up as we can. Doesn't look like we're gonna have enough room in the dumpster for it all, but we'll at least bag it up, set it aside, order a new dumpster, and then once that comes, we're in good shape. Wednesday, we're hoping to get the electrician here to do his demo, and yeah, we're just gonna keep making progress. So I've been planning this job for nearly a year now. It's been a lot of work between dealing with the engineer and the company's management and bidding it out, making changes, getting a permit with the town. It's been quite a struggle. So, and then the town held us up. We wanted to start 3 weeks ago, and the permit application sat on their desk for a month and a half, and they didn't even have to do anything. It was the zoning department, but since we're not changing the footprint on this building, we shouldn't be a problem. Or all they had to do was look at it and say, you know, it's fine by them. It took them a month and a half to do that. But what else can you expect from a building department? Anyway, got a nasty day tomorrow. We're all gonna be sweaty and covered in fiberglass. So this is it's about beginning of May right now. We plan to have this done in about 3 months. Hopefully the weather cooperates, but see you next time. So here's what we're doing with today. We knew this was gonna be one of the nastiest parts of the job, but it's kind of hard to believe until you see it. This is what's coming down from the roof here. So we pull these panels off. There's a bunch of insulation, loose fiberglass, blow-in insulation, and it's a lot. Here's our dumpster. Between yesterday and today, we filled that dumpster. And we've got another one coming tomorrow morning. So I'm being a little weird with the camera sometimes, pointing it down because I'm trying not to dox my customer here. They already said they don't really care, but I don't know, I feel weird. They got their logo plastered everywhere. But anyway, we kind of anticipated this part of the job taking 2 full days, and that's looking like that's what it's gonna be. So maybe do a quick little video at the end of the day and show you the progress, and I'll be back soon. So I'm here at the end of the second day of work, and we did pretty well today. I was hoping to get more done, but the guys were really struggling. It was pretty hot today, and being in those Tyvek suits and the respirators on and eyeglasses, and it's not fun. There's only 2 guys here working, plus myself helping a little bit, but they did well. I was hoping, I think I budgeted 3 guys for 2 full days here on this, and it's about what they did. So tomorrow they'll move a little quicker. There was a little bit of learning curve, figuring out how to work around these wires, like the smoke, those are heat detectors up there. The red wires are for those. We got white and purple wires up there. Purple are for their camera system. White is for something, I forget. Some with the security, I think. But got that down pat. We're working around these electrical conduits that are strung across the ceiling, so we have to cut out the panels around them. Some of the nailers that are holding those up we're pulling down, so we're tying them off with some mechanics wire as we go. And the electrician's coming here on Thursday to do his demo, so he needs to see exactly how everything is wired up in here so that they can take it apart and they can put it back together the same way it was. So honestly, it would have been a lot easier for us to just demo the wires at the same time, just rip everything off, but my electrician wanted to do his demo by himself. But whatever, it is what it is. Not too worried about that. Let's see here. So I crossed off some of the names on the plan and the Gantt chart. So not too worried about it being seen anymore. So in this image right here, anything that's in color is new framing. So the green on the bottom is the I-beam. It's actually a W-beam, which I'm pretty sure means a wide I-beam. That's going to be the header going across the garage door openings. I was saying yesterday, we're getting 3 45-foot W-beams delivered. They're going to get cut a little bit, but they're longer than 40-foot spans to go across 3 of these garage doors, so we had to order 45s. And not really sure why the engineer decided to do it this way, but they're standing up on top of these metal posts. I would have preferred to just do CMU or cinder block and with the brick veneer around it like they are built currently, and then the beam could have just rested on those, but this is how he drew it up. This is going to be a real challenge, getting this truss in place. And then getting that 20-inch triple LVL up, that's going to be fun. But we're going to be using that telehandler out there. It's going to be like our crane for this job. It's a 42-foot reach. Can easily handle the weight that we're going to be putting on it. So it's coming along. I have 75 2x6 by 20 foot long Doug fir boards coming Friday morning, and we're going to use those to build a temporary wall. And what I think I'm going to do is go directly under each rafter with the 2x6, put a stub of 2x6 alongside the rafter and the stud, and screw that all together, and then put a hurricane tie from the rafter to the 2x6, and then put a brace maybe like 10 feet down, maybe less than 10 feet down, but maybe get like a 10-foot 2x4 and brace it up to the current rafter, and then put blocking between each stud. So that's going to be an exciting part of the build, and I'm hoping to get that going on Friday if the electricians can finish their demo in one day, which I don't really see why they can't. Doesn't seem that hard to me. Now another challenge we have on this job is these giant conduits running across the current joists, if you want to call them that. They're more like rafter ties, but those 2-inch metal conduits have all the wiring for the pump station at this place, which that is a huge pump station that fills all the oil trucks. And we got power coming from here. This is where it comes in from the road, goes up into some of these conduits. We got one conduit shooting all the way across the front, and now mind you that those rafter ties are not going to be there when this is all put back together the way it's going to be. So what we're going to do is hang some probably threaded rods and some pipe clamps down, so this conduit is going to hang from the new ceiling joists or rafter ties, whatever you want to call them. They're kind of the same thing in this job. And then so we have that one right there, and we have another one over here. All this electrical, not sure how that's going to get handled by the electrician, because the new ceiling is about 3.5 feet higher than this current one was. Or that didn't make sense. Than the current ceiling is. So everything's going to have to get suspended from the new ceiling. So I don't know. This was all buried. We just exposed all this today, so we really couldn't see what was going on. If you went up in the attic before, there's like nowhere to walk. You got only these 2x6s every 4 feet, but there was no planks or anything, so we could only just pop our head up there in a couple spots, and it was all buried in insulation anyway. So this is what we found. Yeah, and everything's gonna get hung from the new ceiling, but we need to temporarily support it throughout this job. So just had this idea looking at this today. I think what we're gonna do, the original plan was to cut the front half of these rafter ties out. Just cut it, like after the temporary wall goes up, kind of beyond the ridge, like back behind the ridge about 2 feet. We were just gonna cut that, whatever was hanging out in front of it. But now I think we're just gonna cut it right here and put a 2x4 down to the floor at each one of these. And by code, we're only required to hold up a rigid pipe every 10 feet, and this will be every 4 feet with a single. We're just gonna do a temporary structure. It doesn't need to be crazy strong. So can't wait for this part to be done. This is nasty work. We've got all these extra bags that wouldn't fit in the dumpster. Got 2 30-yard dumpsters hopefully coming tomorrow, and I think we're gonna fill them in one day with everything that comes out of here. I mean, we're starting with this, and what we've done here, a third of this garage filled maybe 2/3 of a dumpster. So we'll definitely fill more than 130, and we will fill some of another one, I think, after we finish all this demo. But once this demo is done and the electricians do their demo, it's all building from there. So it's gonna be pretty cool. Cutting these headers out, that's probably the most challenging part of this job. Now, when they built this, you can see the way this concrete header, it's got to be reinforced with some metal in there. I don't think it's a beam, but it could be. But you can see they formed it with some 2x material. You could see the wood grain in the concrete, and then there's that seam in the middle where the two boards met. So this was one solid pour going across the whole building, and the new plan to raise the height of these posts, we need to make a horizontal cut on top of these bricks and get rid of that whole header. And that's how we build up the height of the post. There's going to be a brick veneer going on at the very end of the job, and then let's see, yeah, once we put those metal square stock posts on top, then the big metal beam goes right across all those. So cutting this concrete header out is going to be pretty tricky. It's the only part of this job that I'm actually worried about. And I have my mason, told us he would help. We're probably going to lean on him to help with that. And what I'm thinking is cutting here and here on each post. Then we get rid of that middle section with the telehandler. Just gonna put it in the dumpster. And then we're only working with the concrete portion right above the bricks, and we need to get a horizontal cut on that. And it's gotta be clean, because once we expose the top of that brick post, the metal post that goes on top of it is going to be anchored down in. So really we just need to have a clean enough cut where we can get nice anchors in. Those are 3/4 inch, or no, I'm sorry. Where's the anchor called out? Yeah, 3/4 inch diameter by 8 inch tall. Threaded anchors drilled into CMU and set in epoxy with screens. So that's going to be a tricky part, really technical. We need to get those holes drilled so that once those threaded rods go down, they need to be sticking out straight and in the proper position to slide this base plate over it. So I've thought a lot about that, and I got a plan. We're gonna basically use a jig, and you know, obviously I'm gonna be filming all this stuff as we go, but did want to talk a little bit more about this, my Gantt chart that I made. And I found this program recently called Smartsheet. It's free software, and it's free for the basic version if you're not collaborating with other people that can update the project on their own account. But it's pretty simple to use. All you need to do, the trickiest part was when you start the software, you don't have, it doesn't show, I didn't show it in this view because this is my printed out view, and maybe I can show it later on my computer, but each of these tasks has a predecessor. And when you start the program, the predecessor option is default deactivated. So you need to go into the options and tell it to show you the predecessor column. And then as you go through and set these up, every single one of these arrows that goes from one task to the next, that means that that task has a predecessor. And so you just list your tasks in order, and you can always change it. It's basically a spreadsheet, and so it's pretty intuitive and kind of updates things automatically when you tell it to. So you give everything a duration and a start date, but if it's got a predecessor, then the start date is default the end of the previous task. So for example, Yesterday we removed the garage doors. Today we started demoing the ceiling panels and bagging up the insulation. And you can see I have to reprint this because we got delayed by 3 weeks by the building department not issuing the permit, so the dates are wrong. I'm gonna just reprint this and hang it up on the wall so we have it. But we have I gave us 2 days to demo the ceiling, and it looks like we're gonna be done. Then the electrical demo, I gave them 2 days on my schedule, but I honestly don't think they're gonna take 2 days. So demoing heaters and pipes was pretty much done yesterday. So what I'm gonna do eventually is fix up these columns. Now the coolest part about this software is that for example, when I change the start date, it basically just shifts the dates over 3 weeks. And if I change this electrical demo to a duration of 1 day instead of 2 days, everything ahead of it shifts back a day. So it's just really cool the way you can customize this and adjust it as you go, update it. I've got certain subcontractors colored with their own color. So my garage door guy is orange, the electricians are red, the roofer is purple, inspections are yellow, my metal fabricator is blue, my mason is green. And so before this job started, I sent all my subs this, and they knew exactly when they should be scheduled at the end for these portions towards the end of the job. So it's really brilliant. And you know, this is similar to a Microsoft project software. It's called a Gantt chart, G-A-N-T-T. And if you want to do the Microsoft project, you got to pay hundreds of dollars for a license, or to buy a version of it, like an older version, you're still spending hundreds and hundreds. I think it's like $500 minimum for an outdated version. It's crazy. These guys let you do it for free as long as you aren't collaborating, and they probably get a lot of business that way because people see how good and effective it is, and bigger companies would have no problem paying for a license for something like this with everybody getting on board. So yeah, it's pretty cool. I've always known about these Gantt charts, but I've never actually messed with it because I didn't want to pay for it with Microsoft Project. So looked up some alternatives and found a video that talked about this one, and that's what I went with. Pretty cool. Anyway, I was pretty liberal with my estimates of time. A couple in particular, like removing the concrete headers. Since we're doing this in 2 phases, I gave us 5 days to remove 6 of these headers, and the second phase is only 3 headers. And so over here it's 5 work days as well. Another cool thing about this software is you can assign days off, and it automatically does a standard work week, but you can change that. So I just put in normal work week, 8 to 4, 8-hour days. You can break these out into hourly components, but I don't need to do anything like that. And then like this red column here is Memorial Day. So you can specify days off. So that's pretty cool. And then one of the reasons I was extra liberal with my estimates for durations here was because there's going to be parts of this project that we are going to have to take rain days. We can't work in the rain framing the roof. So when that happens, you just tell the program we didn't work this day. It gives you a red column, shifts everything over, and the idea is, by me beating some of my estimates and getting rain days in the process, hopefully we'll be kind of on track to finish by it would be the beginning of August, as it is right now. And they're a home heating oil company, so they need to be up and running by September, and I think we'll have no problem doing that for them. So since we're doing 45-foot beams, we're gonna get 3 beams. They're gonna get cut a little bit, but each beam is gonna cover 3 openings. And originally we were gonna do 4 beams, each one covering 2 openings. But my metal fabricator said he would prefer to just do 3, and there was no problem with the engineer doing that. So we decided to do, the first phase is gonna be 6 of the bays. And the second phase is gonna be the last 3 bays, but they are the tricky one, because over here, these last 2 bays are gonna be vaulted ceilings. I think I was talking about that yesterday, but that building this truss and hanging this 2020 LVL is gonna be a lot harder than just framing rafters. So first phase is twice as long, but the second phase is a lot more technical. So that's where we're at, and I'm gonna keep up with the videos. I want to document this whole job and put it out there. So I will be back tomorrow. Thanks for listening. I'm here on the morning of the 4th day, and I had to leave a little early yesterday, so I couldn't take a video at the end of the day, but guys got the rest of the ceiling demoed, got all our insulation is bagged up, and we filled that second 30-yard dumpster, and we have enough to fill probably another 30-yarder completely. So that dumpster is getting delivered tomorrow. Today we're doing electrical demo, and we're just gonna have to work around all these bags. I'm gonna rearrange them so they're in a row of 1 and put some gaps in the middle, and then we can take this rolling scaffold, the blue one, and we can slide it right over our piles of bags if we need to. But glad that's done. That was nasty. We have the metal beams that are supposed to be getting delivered today, so that's exciting. And electrical demo, hopefully they'll finish today. And then our first lumber drop is coming tomorrow morning, and that's got 2x6 by 20 foot boards that are gonna build our temporary wall. I'm getting 2x4 by 12s to hold up these conduits. And I'm getting 2x8 by 20 foot boards that we're gonna use to sister up those rear rafters. So since that whole part of the building is gonna remain intact, the engineer called for sistering up those rear rafters. See right there. So yeah, that's where we're at today. We're on schedule so far. Yesterday we had 5 guys working for 10 hours. So maybe went a little bit over on my labor budget for the demo, but it was a lot of work, so I'm not too surprised. It's a big building. Doesn't look like it when you're outside, but once you get in, It's tall up there. I think that peak, the top of the building's at about 22 feet. So, yeah, anyway, I'll be back later to document our progress. So I'm here on a Saturday after the first week of work is done, and I had to come in here today to clean all that fiberglass that was left over in the rafter bays down by the eaves. There's a bunch of fiberglass stuck everywhere, so I got up on this rolling scaffold with a backpack blower. I was able to pull myself around by those joists and did the whole ceiling in here. Got it cleaned up because, for one, when we sister up those rear rafters, we don't want fiberglass packed in those. So had to get it out of there, and I'd rather just do it in one shot than have to struggle with it every time we get up there to put a new rafter in. But I also just didn't want to be dealing with fiberglass the rest of this job, so came out nice and clean up there. Took me longer than I would have liked, but I also did a nice cleanup for the rest of the job site. So this was what we worked on yesterday. It was me and one other guy, and we got our temporary wall started. So those bottom plates go all the way to the end of the 6th garage bay, which is all of phase 1 in this job. So now I'm having second thoughts. I might just build the temporary wall all the way across, and then it'll be there when we're moving on to the second phase. But I don't know, I might change my mind on that. So I'm gonna go over quick how we're doing this. This is it's called shoring, but once we take the front rafters off, this temporary wall is going to hold up the back half of the building. These trusses, or they're kind of like makeshift trusses up there, those are all going to be gone except what we're using to support the conduit. This one here is much less important. It really doesn't need to be that strong, so we're just doing 2x4s with I think they're 2.5 inch or 3 inch Tapcons about every 2 feet or so. Doesn't really matter. It's going to be plenty strong to hold that up. Like I said before, we're going to cut the remainder of that joist out after the temporary walls are all done. And so that one's pretty simple, but this wall here is very important, and it needs to be strong. It's not only holding the roof up and the weight of the roof and the shingles and the decking, but if we get a big wind come through while the front of the building is gone, this whole roof is acting like a giant sail, and all it takes is one big gust and that thing will, who knows what would happen. I mean, it could blow over the backside, it could pick up and fall back down and come down in here, but can't take any chances with that. So it is being built super strong. We are using these big Tapcons. I don't know if I know where they are. They're 5/16 Tapcons. They got the big beefy thread, and we're putting them between every single joist bay, stud bay. No, that's the little ones. That's what we're using on the 2x4 wall. Here we go. It's these guys. So that's what we're using here. We started out by putting one on each end, snapped a straight line. We're 3 feet behind the ridge. Snapped a straight line across the garage floor. Put our boards down, did one on each end. And I went back and figured out where the middle of each stud bay is. We put one every 16 inches, staggered back and forth. So that's holding it down. We're using some angle brackets in the bottom of the stud and a bunch of toenail screws to go down into the bottom plate. And the way we're gonna do it here, we got these strong back 2x6 studs, because when these things, this is already screwed off to these horizontal supports, but when these studs go in, since they're almost 20 feet long, they're flimsy back and forth or left to right. So these 2x6 strong backs are going to give it that support in that direction, and we're going to do one of these every 8 studs. So this is the second one we're doing, and then we go up and put this 2x4 8 feet tall. Each new stud is going to screw into this 2x4. We have it laid out so we know where the stud needs to land. And then I've got another one up there, which is doubling as a support for those braces. While we're putting them up, we can just kind of, and I put that other 2x4 on the rafters up there, hold up the other end of the 2x4, and the top of these studs, the stud is cut at the same angle as the rafter, and then I have a scab board on the side of it that's screwed. I've got 5 screws going into the rafter and 5 screws going into the stud. Then our strong back goes up alongside the rafter as well. I'm not sure if it's visible in the video. And then every time one of the studs lands on this joist, it's getting screwed to that joist. So that's an extra bit of bracing to the bottom of the rafter. So a couple things we had to consider when we're laying out this temporary wall. The sistered rafters are going to be on the looking at these rafters from here, the sistered rafters going on the left of it. And I just realized we're going to have to take these down before we put the rafters up, so we'll probably just take it off as soon as we're done using it to support those braces, and just move along, keep putting it back up to help hold it up. It's really awkward working on the ladder up there and trying to reach that brace, the end where I screwed into the rafter. But what else is going on here? Yeah, so these horizontal boards are going to help us orient these studs, help us get it in there. And basically what we have to do is we put it up, stand it up in place where it's going to go, and I scribe that rafter onto the side of the board. Then we bring it back down, cut the angle, put it back up under the rafter. So this is going to help us fit the rafter in, or the stud in, get it straight, and then scribe it, bring it back down, cut it, put it back up. So anyway, once I get a better start on this, I'm gonna show all this to the engineer and make sure he signs off on the way we're building this temporary support. So we got this conduit up here going about 5 or 6 feet from the front of the building all the way down straight. And we've got these conduits here that are going to be supported throughout the job. So we're gonna have to build another temporary wall with the 2x4s under this one to hold all this stuff up, and this is all gonna get hung from the ceiling when we're done. So got this place nice and clean for a fresh start of the next week, and we had a good week. Got a lot done. We're a little bit ahead of schedule right now. It's gonna be a long job though, so we'll see if we can maintain it. So I want to talk a little bit about the planning for this job and what it really took. I originally looked at this over a year ago because when I was going back into my notes, I saw that the first proposal, was a preliminary proposal, was last May of 2023. It's now May of 2024, and we just started. So they gave me the idea that they wanted to do first, and I told them they need an engineer to come up with the plan, but they hadn't found one yet, and that would have taken a long time to get the plan in hand. So they needed to get a number approved in their budget for last year. So I put together some rough estimates, added some contingency, and we got that approved. So what I originally did, and this was maybe a little naive of me, but I looked at how they framed it with the 2x8s, and that's kind of how I based my original preliminary proposal off of. I figured we'll just use 2x8s again, pick it up, and well, we'd still have to demo the whole front half, but I was gonna use LVL headers, 2x8s, and after, you know, this building was built probably 50 years ago, I'd say, and after the engineer came back, the new design calls for 2x12 rafters in the front and sistering up the rear rafters. But once I redid my numbers, I was still within my contingency that I had put in, so I wasn't too far over my original estimate. Then so we got the plan from the engineer, I want to say in November of last year, 2023, and then at some point in the weeks after that, they decided to make a pretty significant change to the design, and they wanted to vault the ceiling on these last two garage bays so they can put a big lift in here. I mean, these trucks, their trucks are huge, and it's kind of surprising they never had a lift in here already. But so the vaulting of the ceiling is a pretty big deal, and so that changed everything again. We got that revised plan in February, and we had originally planned to start this job in March because that was kind of the end of their heating season, and that would give us the most amount of time. But all those things added delays with the change in plan, and so by the time we submitted our building permit application, it was the middle of March, and took them 6 weeks to issue the permit, which is a joke, but we already talked about that. But it took a solid year for this job to start, even longer. So it was a lot of work. I spent at least 100 hours between meeting my vendors, meeting with the engineer and the general manager here. I've got about 5 or 6 different subcontractors. I had to go over the plan with them and get my prices, multiple meetings with each, material, doing a takeoff from the plan and getting estimates, and it's just a lot of work. But I mean, I knew what I was getting into. I just want to give you guys a little taste of what it takes, but finally here starting, and it's gonna be a good job. I'm excited. We got our first lumber delivery this week. Have my 2x8s for the sistering of the rear rafters, 2x6s for the temp wall we're building, and 2x4s for the support for the conduit. We got our metal delivery this week. Got 3 45-foot W beams. They're W8 by 24 it's called, and that means they're 8 inches tall and 24 pounds per foot. And then using the telehandler to move our material around. This is our third 30-yard dumpster. All the rest of that insulation only filled up maybe half to 2/3 of this dumpster. So Monday, we're stripping the front half of the roof, shingles and decking. So this building is going to be exposed to the weather. We're going to have to do some kind of a protective cover over these conduits with maybe just sling a tarp over it and staple it down. And yeah, so let's go look at the schedule, see what's after that. Basically after the roof and the planks come off, I think we can start demoing rafters after that. We got right here, demo roofing, front half of building, build temporary wall for phase 1. Gave myself 2 days for that. But that would put us at the end of Wednesday being on track. And then by the end of this coming week, we should have the rafters and joists demoed. And then I gave myself a full week the next week to remove those concrete headers. So where is that? Right there. And then while we're working on removing the concrete headers, I have in here sister up rear rafters, install ridge boards on existing rafters. Oh yeah, that's first part of framing the new roof. Compressor just kicked on. Video there. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for week 2. Should be a busy week. Hopefully the weather cooperates. All right, have a good one.